This is the 53rd time the NASCAR Nationwide Series has raced on the Monster Mile. This place has been challenged over the years by the biggest names in NASCAR. And the truth be known, if you look at the record books, only the best can claim to have conquered the monster at Dover. And we welcome you to Dover International Speedway as we get ready for the one and only practice here on the Monster Mile for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. It'll be race number 11 on the 2010 schedule. As you can see, the cars are still back in the garage area getting ready to go out. Justin Allgaier, since his win at Bristol, tailed off a little bit. We may have a chance to talk about that. Trevor Bayne, another one of the rookies, trying to figure out how to run this 1 mile track. And Brendan Gaughan having a little fun before going out to give it another go here in Dover. And as we come into the pit studio, you'll pull back from the garage area, and there we are on the lower left-hand side of your screen, as that's where we're coming to you from today. As we come inside, we welcome back a face that you thought may have disappeared forever. Welcome back there, DJ.
Thanks. Glad to be back. Had a great little bit of time off. Graduated Natalie from UNC last week, so but looking forward to being here this weekend.
Well, that's great, and congratulations to her. Let's talk about this place, because the favorite description that I get from everybody is it's Bristol on steroids.
Yeah, that's a great explanation and description of this place. You hear myself and a lot of others talk about a roller coaster ride, except that you're running 170 miles an hour into these corners. So it's a very difficult track, but with a fun race car, it is a blast for a race driver here to go that fast, feeling like you're falling off the edge of a cliff going down into these corners and then pulling back coming uphill out of the corner. So these guys will try to get in a lot of practice sessions. They've got a new tire here that seems to be working very well.
Yeah, new on the left side, and I guess we'll figure out as we go through this practice what everybody thinks of it, because as we said, this is going to be the first and only practice for the Nationwide Series before they go racing tomorrow here at Dover. Let's bring in the guy you're saying, well, wait a minute, where's Andy Petrie? Well, he's in the garage area with the 88 team of Jamie McMurray. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Marty. I'm down here with our in-race reporter for Saturday's race, Jamie McMurray, and I talked to his crew chief, Tony Uri Sr., about what maybe their agenda was for this practice. He told me they didn't really have an agenda. They hope to be fast, and they really hope that Jamie likes their Dover setup. They've been pretty good here before, and so they're just hoping that he likes the setup and that they're fast, but they're ready to make any changes. He said they may end up having to change everything, but I wouldn't count on it. I think they're going to do pretty good. Dave?
Well, Andy, a new name in the Nationwide Series this week is actually an old name, a veteran of 50 starts. Ryan Newman will drive the one car here this week. James Buescher was released from this ride earlier in the week, and Newman is the choice. Was he the right choice? Well, he's not a bad choice. 7 of his wins, he's won 7 times in the Nationwide Series, one of them right here at Dover, and he also has 2 poles. We'll see how he does with this James Finch team, his first ride of the year in the one car. Vince?
Well, it's going to be a memorable weekend for Jason Keller, that's for sure. The big question is it going to be memorable for the right reasons? The 20-year Nationwide Series veteran is about to make his 500th series start tomorrow. No Nationwide Series driver has reached this milestone, but there's no guarantee 500 will come tomorrow. Keller is with a startup team this season. He's failed to make the field in 3 of the 10 races. He's raced at Dover over 30 times, but with this team, every moment on the track is important, and when you consider this is the only practice before qualifying and he must qualify on time tomorrow to make the field, nothing will be taken for granted. Jason told me just a moment ago he remembers his first race and how nervous he was. He's pretty nervous again today, Marty.
And there is pressure, as you mentioned. He has to qualify on speed, and we'll find out if he can do that tomorrow morning. Take a look at the top 5 in starts in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Right behind Jason is Kenny Wallace, who is still, of course, competing. He's at 463 and counting. Tommy Houston at 417, David Green at 396, and Elton Sawyer at 392. So Jason Keller becomes the Iron Man again with 500 career starts. Could you ever imagine that many in one series?
Well, that's a lot of starts, certainly, but Jason Keller's done a great job in this series. He's been someone that has supported the series and done very well. And when he looks back over all of this time, he's going to remember some really special races, but certainly making this field tomorrow will be special for him.
Well, you can see that everybody's buttoning up and getting ready to head on out to the track as we are getting ready for practice here at Dover International Speedway. You know, we have had 7 different winners in the last 7 spring races. That's another thing I find very interesting, DJ, because normally somebody gets their hooks into a track, and we see a streak of 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, but I think this, because of this racetrack and the tires changing here quite a bit, Goodyear has been searching for years trying to find something that would really lay some rubber down on this concrete surface. And I think that all of those things combined, because of the difficulty of the track and being lucky. You have to be pretty lucky here. Even though it's only a 200-mile race, a lot of things happen quickly here. And so you have to be fortunate. And I think that that's taking its toll on some of these winners.
Another thing we'll get a chance to talk about, maybe we can do it right now. Greg Biffle getting into the car there. Let's talk about the fact you raced on this track back when it was not concrete, and then when it was. How is it different?
Well, when this was asphalt, you literally could race from the very bottom to the top. And we saw a lot of guys. Harry Gant's one that I can always remember being right up against the wall and just flying around this racetrack. That's not necessarily the case. We'll see this racetrack widen out as far as 2 and 3 grooves tomorrow, but on the bottom, that's the fastest way around. And you just don't ever feel like, no matter how good your car is, you don't ever feel like you're totally down in the racetrack on this concrete surface. So it makes every lap exciting and adventurous for these drivers.
Well, you want to see who's best on the concrete? Let's take a look. And here it is. All-time wins with Kevin Harvick leading the way with 7. Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth with 5. Clint Boyer has 4, but he actually has the best all-time average finish amongst those 4 at 5.6. So don't count out the driver of the 21 machine this week.
Yeah, and when you look at this group of drivers, you see guys here that have done well on all types of different racetracks, but they really have what may be a feel that they're looking for in their cars that others haven't caught on to, and that's helped them to excel on this concrete surface.
Carl has just finished Sprint Cup practice, and there he is signing autographs on the way over to the Nationwide car. And there's Kyle Busch climbing in. And, of course, Kyle oh so close to winning here at this race last year, had that flat tire. We'll talk more about that as we go to practice when we come back. NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice brought to you by One-A-Day VitaCrave, multivitamin gummies for grown-ups. And as you can see, as we've got race cars out on the track, practice has finally gotten started here at the Dover Monster Mile as Justin Allgaier out on track right now and already has quickly moved to the top of the speed charts, although that's going to change before the day is over. And we mentioned the fact that his average finish after 10 nationwide races last season, 18.9, this season 9.6. But if you look at his first 5 races, DJ, compared to his last 5, there's been a bit of a drop-off.
Yeah, they have had that, but they really came out on fire. And you have to wonder, sometimes with a team, you come out really good, you get a victory, then you start trying a few things to improve that just a little bit. And there's been some circumstances to where they kind of got caught up in some things that have hurt their finishes in a couple of those races.
Here's exactly what we're talking about. He got the win at Bristol, of course. Top 5s, 3. 5 top 10s. His average is 5.0 in the first 5. His last 5, a lot of goose eggs, and 14.2. So obviously a team looking to get back on track.
Yeah, and this is a good place to do that, too. Obviously, coming off the win on a concrete surface at Bristol, I'm sure these guys are really excited about being here at Dover.
So as he is in pit road, getting a tire check and temperatures, Landon Castle back behind the wheel of the number 7, the GoDaddy colors, out on track again this week. Castle right now 13th of the 18 cars that have taken speeds.
Yeah, this is one of those racetracks that, especially for a young driver, you come here and you've got some Cup guys in here that have already been out there. They know what that thrill's like to sit in there and drive off into turn 1 with the car feeling like it's falling completely out, or the racetrack completely out from under you. And so it takes a little bit of time to work up. They have 2 hours here, and invariably we see over the years these guys come out here and try to lay down a fast lap. They get themselves in trouble. So with just 1 2-hour practice session here, I would look for the guys to be a little bit easier in getting up to speed.
It's not Landon's first time here to Dover. In fact, if he qualifies, he will qualify. He's in the guaranteed spot, but it'll be his 4th start. His best finish was 18th back in 07.
And I think that Nationwide has the best schedule of the weekend when I was looking. They're practicing right now at a time that they'll be close to racing tomorrow. So they get all of that in the heat of the afternoon. So that's going to allow them to set their cars up. And then they get to qualify tomorrow morning when the track is cooler. So a lot of times they kind of do things opposite. They've had practice early in the morning when they didn't really get a good gauge on what the track's really going to be like. So it's kind of worked to their favor this week.
Let's check back into the garage area on 34. Tony Raines, Dave Burns, what's going on?
Hey guys, 34 car of Tony Raines just a little bit tight in the corner on that first run, but that wasn't his biggest problem. He thought he had an issue with his brakes, and when he brought the car in, he actually had flames underneath the hood. Well, it turned out not to be the brakes. It turned out to be some solvent. I think we've heard this before, left on a heat shield that covers the headers of the engine to keep the heat away from things that can get burned. Well, that caught fire, and that's what set the fire crew in motion down here.
Well, John Force could teach him a lot about catching himself on fire. In his early days of his career, he'd tell you he did it all the time. Here's his last 5 races, and take a look at the improvement that this team has had. In fact, they are now in the 10th position in points. And they have really come on strong for not one of our more well-funded teams.
Yeah, as I've watched these races over the last few weeks, I've really been impressed with Tony Raines and the effort this team is making. It's really fun to watch, and Tony gets some recognition for being as good a race driver as what he is.
The last time he was in the top 10 in points was following Homestead, November 2001. He was 6th. Kevin Harvick, you saw him taking a couple laps. Now he is going to be bringing it in, and he is at the top of the speed charts right now, completing 5 laps. 23.75 seconds at 151 and change. How about Brad Keselowski? Well, over the last 10 races on concrete, he is by far and away the best performer, which everybody always thinks, well, it's Carl. Well, Carl's streak was back in 07 and 08.
Yeah, and when we looked at the list of 4 a while ago and he wasn't up there, I was a little bit surprised, but he's run on so many of them, and his average finish where he had early in his career, things didn't go exactly right for him. But, man, he has literally been the man. Whenever you talk about Nashville and Bristol and here, he gets the job done, and he'll certainly be someone they have to contend with tomorrow.
He has 3 of those wins in those last 10 races right on the concrete surface. Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Well, and as we make our way through the garage and as you watch Brad Keselowski, and you're going to go back to something DJ said a moment ago, several of these crew chiefs making mention of the fact that this is a different set of circumstances than what they usually deal with. Normally when the nationwide cars go out for the first time, there's very little, if any at all, rubber on the track. So the Cup cars have been out for practice. We've had the trucks out on the track today. So these teams are getting a good opportunity to get out and experience this racetrack with the rubber on it in a similar situation than they'll have tomorrow. Remember, new left side tires on these cars. The right sides are tires that they have run before. And for Brad K, a couple of wins already this season. Average finish 4.3. Pretty confident they're going to have another good weekend here, as you guys have indicated. Past success shows a positive effort just ahead for Brad Keselowski, Marty.
And another guy we talked about at the beginning right there, Clint Boyer in the 21. You saw the stats right there on how he does on the concrete. But his last few races in this car haven't been all that great. He was 39th at Darlington, his 4th finish outside the top 10 in 5 starts this season in that car.
Yeah, but I would look for him to be pretty good here. Clint, I think Nashville, that first one was somewhere that he really showed that he took a liking to the concrete surface. And this is a place, when I watched him race here, really liked the way that he makes his car work the bottom of the racetrack here. Really gets it to where it turns in the center, but you have to be able to be tight enough up out of the corners here that you don't get loose coming out, because if you get it loose there, then you're going to lose all your straightaway speed.
Well, Clint's last of 8 Nationwide Series wins was right here last September. As he continued around, he is now number 2 on the speed charts behind Kyle Busch. Kyle did it in 1 lap, believe it or not. Goes right to the top. We'll talk more about him. Here's Clint's career at Dover. 8 starts, 2 wins. His average finish leads all drivers in the field this weekend. Stay with us. Let's check the NASCAR calendar, because the Nationwide Series qualifying at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2, and then we'll be back at 2 o'clock Eastern tomorrow on ABC with Countdown and race number 11. Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Southern Nationals, we got qualifying 7 Eastern tomorrow, and then final elimination 7 Eastern Sunday. One's on ESPN2, the other's on ESPN, and then NASCAR now at 9 a.m. Eastern Sunday at ESPN2. Back in the garage area, teams continuing to work. We'll update you. Joe Gibbs Racing is now 1 and 2 on the speed charts. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch ranking 1st and 2nd.
Sure, that shocked everybody.
Yeah, shocked the living daylights out of everyone.
Denny's on quite the roll, though, but he'll be the first to tell you that this is a place that he has struggled over the years. And it's not that Denny Hamlin can't drive this racetrack. He just hasn't ever found in a car the exact setup that he's looking for, because he obviously has a tremendous amount of talent. But after winning both the races last week, comes in here the fastest so far.
Saw Carl Edwards' statistics as we were riding on board with him. There is Denny as he is slowing, heading towards pit road. His fastest lap, 23.47 seconds at 153.3 miles an hour. And right behind him is now Carl Edwards. That lap we just rode along with him there at 23.49 seconds. Checking in now on the 38 machine, and Casey Kane back behind the wheel. Of course, this team got penalized for an improper shock. Sounded like a similar situation with what happened to Penske Racing.
Yeah, and they are appealing that the fine, and I think that they have a very good case. Now, whether that will happen or not, because these shocks go through a lot throughout a race, and things can happen that can alter the way that shock performs when NASCAR takes it off and checks it at the end.
Casey right now 7th on the speed charts. His best lap 23.75 seconds. That's 151.5 miles an hour. You know, you talked about this being like a roller coaster. Explain it for anybody who may just be joining us for the first time, how it drops off, and it's a big drop. It's hard for us to show it there with that angle.
Yeah, right there. It literally feels like, as a driver, as you go off into turn one, the racetrack falls out from under you. So if you've ever been on a roller coaster, you got to the top and you go start down the other side. That's exactly what this racetrack is like. As you get down to the center of the corner then and start to drive out of turn two, you go back up the racetrack. So you're literally driving straight towards the wall up the hill there. Down the back straightaway does the same thing as you enter turn three. So it's like the car, you really have to work hard with your shock and spring setup here. And sway bar plays a big part of that too. And making sure that when your car lands, that it's landing in the proper direction. And so that's what these guys will face a lot, and not getting the car to bottom out. And it literally drives like a roller coaster as you go down. Same thing out of turn four. And probably one of the most treacherous places is out of turn four because you're carrying so much speed. We'll right along here. This is turn one. Literally right there where you're letting out of the gas, or they start to roll out of the throttle a little bit, the car lands, and that's where you can't have. If it bottoms out, then you're going to be in big trouble.
On board with Stephen Wallace, and you can see right now he is 16th on the speed charts, and he's bringing it down to pit roads. Let's check back in the garage area with Dave Burns. What's the latest on Ryan Newman?
Well, Marty, he went out to make his first run, and he didn't even complete one lap. That's because he said he thought a cross member was hitting the racetrack, and maybe some other stuff was Newman's exact quote. So they checked underneath the car to see if they could make that better. But the most interesting challenge they've had this week was the difference between the drivers in terms of how much they weigh. James Busher, well, he's kind of a strong toothpick, if you want to describe him that way. Ryan Newman, he weighs 80 pounds more than James Busher. I wanted to know what you might do to adjust this car to make it fast for Newman as well as Busher. So let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer. Tim, what would you do?
Put Newman on a diet first, because what you do, Dave, you build the cars as light as you possibly can, because we use tungsten. It's a real dense metal, and what we do, we put it down here in this lower frame rail. But to take 80 pounds out of my car and put it up here where the driver's at, we've raised the roll center and the center of gravity. What it does, the car actually wants to move around a lot, have a lot of weight transfer, but when it's down here, it doesn't transfer as much. Give you a perfect idea, drive an old station wagon down a curvy road, doesn't drive too good. Getting that Corvette, that thing really corners really well because you've got a lower center of gravity. But Dave, in all my experience, the best place for this weight is on the truck. Marty?
Hey, Tim, just hang on a second. Do you realize how big Newman is? He could be an MMA, and you tell him to lose 80 pounds. I think we're going to send him over to see you here.
Oh, no. He and Tony Stewart, you know, they make up for what they do with their weight. They carry it extremely well. That's like Cale Yarborough. You know, he's like a little bulldog. He grabbed a big end of that bone. This is mine, and no, you can't have it.
Yeah, Brewer, you're talking about putting that weight on the truck after you've gone through inspection?
DJ, would you think I would do something like that?
No, I was just questioning. I know.
All right, thanks, Tim. Let's go back out on track as the 18 of Kyle Busch is turning laps. He's got the combos combination again. 6 wins in his last 15 Nationwide Series events. I mean, whether you like him or not, you got to give him credit. He knows how to wheel that car.
He does. One of the most talented drivers that's been in this series all time. I mean, he gets it done on any type of racetrack that we go to. And, you know, he's had chances to add to that win total in other places that he got passed late in the race or something and get beat by a teammate, something like that. So he's there, seems to be week in and week out.
Hey, Vinny, he won the pole for the truck race. He was 5th fastest in Cup practice. What's he saying about the Nationwide car?
Well, he likes it, as you saw his teammate Denny Hamlin up near the top of the speed chart. Kyle Busch in the top 5 on the speed chart right now as we speak. He's led the most laps here the last 3 nationwide races at Dover. And this car chassis number 1861, has gone to victory lane 6 of the last 8 times it has raced for Joe Gibbs Racing. 5 of those with Kyle Busch in the seat, 1 of those with Denny Hamlin. So, you know, as if Kyle Busch isn't tough enough to beat, right? You bring him here with a car that has proven that it can work. DJ, what is it about a certain chassis that always just maybe seems to find its way to victory lane?
Yeah, race drivers are a strange group. You know, we get favorite fields of cars, and when they win for you, that's what becomes really good. But there are things. It could just be, you know, it sits really good for Kyle because even though you might put the same seat or style of seat in all of the cars, they seem to be a little bit different. But this is Kyle Busch's type of racetrack. Doesn't use a lot of brakes, if any. Wide open into the gas, back to the gas hard, so he's going to be hard to beat.
He's won here in all 3 series, one of 6 tracks that he has turned that trick, as we see Jamie McMurray out on track right now. In fact, Jamie is going to be our in-race reporter this week. He is currently 17th on the speed charts. If you want to ask Jamie a question that may be answered during the race, go to ESPN.com. Our keyword is Ask the Driver. Then tune in to the race tomorrow, 2 Eastern on ABC, to see if it's your question that is selected. So as he pulls back into the garage area, let's check in on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the number 6 City Financial Ford. Again, this and the 16 of Colin Brown, these cars must qualify on speed.
Yeah, these guys have had a rough start to the beginning of this 2010 season. Very talented young drivers, just haven't had a lot to go their way.
So he pulls it in. It seems like every time we talk about somebody, they pull into the garage area. Honestly, we're trying to give them TV time, and they're going back in. Stay with us. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back to Dover. Tonight, catch a 1-hour NBA Entertainment ESPN Films documentary, which chronicles the regular season exploits of the LA Lakers as they look to defend their NBA title. The Association, LA Lakers, on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern. Back here at Dover, we have a debris caution out on the track as everybody has pulled back towards the garage area. Gives us a chance to check in with Vince Welch. I think he's caught up with Denny Hamlin's team.
Yeah, hasn't taken Denny long to get to the top of the chart. Ran just 5 laps, and of course coming off that great weekend at Darlington, the sweep, the Nationwide, and the Sprint Cup. How enjoyable is a week of getting ready in between races after you've won both races the previous weekend?
Well, I hadn't been able to experience it until this week, but it was just a great weekend overall for us. You know, we were able to win the DirecTV bracket and donate $250,000 to charity. That was a big deal for us over on the Cup side. And then over here, just in our second start, to get another win definitely means a lot. You know, I don't get to run this car that often, so the few times I think I get 4 runs a year, I got to try to take advantage of them all I can.
Yeah, first and a second so far in 2 races, pretty good. And then the car today, you've gone out 5 laps, you've gone right to the front. What do you try to tweak on with that success right out of the gate?
Well, I told him I thought the car was good enough to win right there, but if we want to do some R&D stuff right now, you know, you don't get the test anymore, so you know, try to work on some R&D stuff, maybe for other tracks, maybe for here. So if we hit on something, maybe we'll apply it. If not, we'll go back to what we got.
Thanks, Denny. Marty?
All right, boy, he did have a great weekend, and he answered every question about whether or not he could race on that recuperating knee. In fact, that put that issue to rest, I think, permanently, because everything else from this point on is pretty much a cheesecake walk after what he went through last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. 700 miles at Darlington, and going through all of that, he's proven it on the short tracks, so looks like, I know it's still bothering him some, but he's ready to go.
Greg Biffle out on the track, and top 10 finishes in 15 Nationwide Series Dover starts. In fact, he has 4 wins at Dover, 2 in Sprint Cup, 2 here in the Nationwide Series. He is 7th on the speed chart as we speak.
Yeah, they've done a terrific job with this race team, and putting Greg Biffle in that car early in the year, I think, did a lot for this team. It helped them kind of get things started in the right direction, and there's nobody better at telling you what you need to do with your racing program and race cars than Greg Biffle.
Dave, what are you hearing from the 27?
Well, they found themselves going just a little bit astray, even for Biffle, and it was about loose race cars. Now, we all know Greg can drive and will drive a loose race car very fast, but the team told me that they were approaching practice tighter today because they would take the very loose race car and then just work all practice long, tightening it up, and they found that in the race, their car was actually too hard to control, very loose, and so they're coming a little bit tighter today and trying to make that better from the start for Greg. Marty?
Interesting concept.
Yeah, it really is. But, you know, sometimes it's a better way to go. You have to be careful. If you've got a loose race car and you keep tightening, and the driver gets that in his mind, then it's hard to back off of that. And so then you find yourself in trouble. I like that idea, especially at a racetrack like this where you're going so fast, you're in the gas so much. If you can get a little bit tight and then you have to back off just a little, you're okay in that direction.
We told you earlier that Andy Petrie is embedded down in the garage area with Jamie McMurray's team. He's 19th on the speed charts. They've only turned 3 laps. What's going on, Andy?
Well, they're not where they need to be right now, Marty. We heard Denny Hamlin say his car was ready to win the race. This 88 car is not quite there. They were bottoming out and loose, and so they're putting it back up on the scale platforms. You can see right here they've changed the left front spring. They're going to make a major adjustment here and see if they can't get this car up off the track. You know, this track has a ton of banking, and you want to run the car as low as possible, but if you hit the track, it can kill your speed. So they're hitting it pretty hard, mainly in the front end. That's why they're changing the left front spring. They'll go back at it and see if they can get it tightened up and keep it from bottoming out. Marty?
Keep us posted. This is some of the interesting stories we get to dig up sometimes when we have these 2-hour blocks and we can follow one car like that. So we'll see what happens. Now, the 32 has pulled out on the track, and Reed Sorensen behind the wheel this weekend. Of course, in recent weeks, it has been Brian Vickers. And if you were anywhere close to a NASCAR media outlet yesterday, you know that Vickers was in the hospital and will not be racing this weekend. In fact, this morning, Jay Fry, the general manager of Red Bull Racing, briefed everybody on exactly what was wrong with Brian.
This past Wednesday, Brian was in Washington, D.C. preparing for his Thursday visit with Congressman Doc Hastings at the Walter Reed Medical Center. He was having some discomfort in his chest. With the encouragement of Dr. Jerry Petty, Brian went to an emergency room at a D.C. area hospital to get checked out. Numerous tests were conducted, including a CT scan. The scan discovered several blood clots in his veins, not his arteries. He was admitted Wednesday evening to the hospital. Currently, he's being given medication to dissolve the clots. He's been thoroughly tested and given a clean bill of health. It is a minor setback in a young man's life in his career. Obviously, it's a major setback for our race team for this weekend. And again, with no timetable for his return, we're really not sure what the next steps are. But he's doing great. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew exactly what was going on with him. So we've got great reason for optimism that everything's going to be fine.
And, of course, Brian Vickers won a race back here in his championship season in the Nationwide Series, coming home first in the September event in 2003.
Yeah, very talented young man. And winning here is always a lot of fun. And as a driver, it kind of gives you a lot of credibility when you can kind of tame this monster here. But we certainly wish Brian the very best and a speedy recovery, get back out here to his friends.
He's probably watching right now because that's about all you're allowed to do with blood clots is just lay around. That you don't. The only thing that makes him serious is if they break free, and as you said, we wish him our best. And if you're tuned in, Brian, get back soon. Carl Edwards right now on the track has now been bumped down to the number 3 spot. Let's listen in on the radio.
Got a little rub on the inside of your right front. I think it's from backing in and out of here because it's not grooved like it's touching the tie rod or the swivel arm or something, but it's not grooved. It's just lying all the way around. So if it was hitting on the racetrack, it would have dug in there,
For more, let's check in with the Craftsman Tech Garage and Tim Brewer. What are they exactly talking about, Tim?
Tell you what, a lot of times, Marty, you see this area right here in the brake ducts where the drivers turn the wheels in and out, getting out of the garage area. It rubs those brake duct hoses a little bit. But what you want to stay away from now is this sway bar bolt right down here at the end of the pointer, because when you turn the wheels and it starts to shine that tire right there, it's not very thick in that area right there. And if you go down the corner, that tire actually rolls under. You'll cut the sidewall out of that tire, then you're going to be going to a backup car.
All right, thanks for the update on that situation, Tim. As you see, Brad Keselowski, he is number 5 on the speed chart right now. In fact, as you take a look at the top 10 in speeds, you'll notice Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Carl Edwards, Clint Boyer, and Brad Keselowski. The top 5, well, they have won the last 7 races here at Dover, combining the spring and the fall events. What's that old saying about cream rising to the top?
Story will certainly be told from days to come.
Expect more drama and excitement when the Indianapolis 500 returns on ABC Sunday, May 30th.
And we could have a record number of 5 females running in this year's Indianapolis 500, May 30th, noon Eastern. Mark it on your calendar. As you see back in the garage area, there is Kyle Busch, still on top of the speed charts at 23.43 seconds. 153.6 miles an hour. Casey Kane, a little bit of concern look on that face.
Yeah, I think, and we're seeing a lot of driving. We're not seeing anybody get out and make any longer type runs yet, and they had a lot of rubber put down on the racetrack. But I think between the tire and just this racetrack itself, these guys are finding some new challenges for them in keeping these cars from dragging and getting the car to do exactly what they want.
Well, Casey won the pole in the September 04 race in that 38 car. Here's Jason Leffler, again in the 10 car like he was last week. Currently 14th, as you see there on the speed charts, but coming off his first top 5 last week. And boy, that team really needed that shot in the arm.
Yeah, they really did. And we know that Jason has a lot of talent. That was nice to see him have that fine run he did last weekend.
Dave, you got more on the 10?
Marty, as most folks know, that was with brand new crew chief for this team, Tripp Bruce, who is a pretty good crew chief in his own right. And here's what Jason had to say about old Tripp.
I've seen what he's done in the past. You know, obviously won the Craftsman truck or the Camping World truck title with Johnny Benson. And but before that, I remember him working on the Everham nationwide car, and he's been around and the Ultra truck. Everywhere he's went, he's had success. So that brings me a lot of confidence.
And what they've been working on in this practice so far is, of course, getting the car right, but maybe some of that veteran ability of Tripp Bruce lending a hand to Jason here. He said, I want you to work on the drivability of your car all over this racetrack because it will slide, and I don't want you to just be good in one line. So they've been making some changes to that car to try to make sure he can drive it well when they race with 43 cars at one time.
And he has just jumped up to 10th on the speed chart. He also, if you remember, back in 2003, picked up his first Truck Series win right here at Dover.
Yeah, good racetrack for him. And, Marty, something I'm seeing here in practice, you talked about he just moved up to 10th. Now, he had over 15 laps on his tires when he made that fastest lap. So we're seeing Kyle Busch go back out and run faster, a number of these guys. So that says a lot of good things about this tire, which will allow us to see some really good racing and maybe make some different pit strategies work tomorrow.
And, of course, you'll see the race starting at 2 p.m. over on ABC tomorrow afternoon. While Leffler continues to turn laps, he's just moved up, as we said, to the 10th spot. Can't say the same for McMurray. Jamie's 20th. Andy, what's going on?
Yeah, they weren't very happy, Marty. They made a lot of changes and went back out there, changed the front sway bar, the left front spring, and did a few little clearance items on the right front fender. Went back out and ran one lap. Came back in just extremely loose. They fixed the bottoming out problem, but they're real loose, so they changed the 2 front shocks. They're going to go out here and try it again. Marty?
Well, Jamie has raced here 10 times before in the Nationwide Series. His best finish is 3rd back in the June race of 05. And I know what some people at home are saying, well, wait a minute, how does a team that has the experience, like Pops Jury does, all of a sudden they roll out and they just can't seem to find the combination. They don't even seem to be close.
Well, I think the tire change probably has a little something to do with it. Because they're running faster, I think that probably has a little more to do with it. And working with driver, plus the car, they're all different. This is a totally different animal because of the banking here, the speeds that you run. And as Andy was just talking about, he ran one lap. When that car is that loose as a driver, you don't want to go any more than that. You want to get back in and work on
Yeah, because the last thing you need is to ball it up into the wall here, and then you're into the backup car. And remember, it's the one and only 2-hour practice session these teams will have, and we are already 45 minutes in, so an hour and 15 minutes left for the 88 team and everybody else to figure it out. Don't forget about NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying, 10 a.m. tomorrow on ESPN2, and then the race will be at 2 o'clock Eastern tomorrow afternoon on ABC. Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Southern Nationals, 8 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2, and then 7 Eastern Sunday also on ESPN2. And then NASCAR Now is at 9 a.m. Eastern Sunday on ESPN2. Back here at the Monster Mile in Dover, 33 of Kevin Harvick is out on track. One of the few cars. In fact, right now he is the only car. In fact, we are not even going to see him out very long because the flag's coming out. Debris on the front stretch.
Anyway, our only caution so far is a little bit of debris.
Second one, we had a debris earlier when we were in commercial break. 12th position for Mr. Harvick right now on the speed chart. Vince, what's the latest on Kevin?
Well, the car's not too bad. They've been working on the front end. Says just not quite comfortable for Kevin getting it into the turns and feels like it's a little bit too loose in. He says everything else he can deal with, but they're working on that entry, not quite where they need to be yet. Andy?
Yeah, Vince, 88 car still struggling a little bit here. They've made the front shock change and went back out. Jamie said the car felt way better on the entry of the corner, a little bit tied off. But their limiting factor, he says, on speed is it's still bottoming out. It's hitting the ground really hard, so they're going to make another big change. They're going to get Jamie out of the race car. They're going to put it back on the scale platforms and the setup tires. You see the guys scrambling here. You know, they had a couple hours to get this right, but they're kind of running out of time, so they need to go out here and really make a big change and see if they can't fix this car from bottoming out. Marty?
Well, he is a half second. His best lap is a half second off of Kyle Busch's best lap. That's not good.
No, and he just hasn't been able to run many laps. And when that car's bottoming out at the speeds that they're running here, you might only get one chance to save it, and you need to go in and work on this because that thing hits hard and you've got the wheels pointed in the wrong direction one time, then you're out of control and into the wall.
Well, don't count Jamie out because remember Richmond 2 races ago, he was 31st in the practice, time trialed 27th, and came back to finish 3rd in the race, and that's what they pay the money for. So you can see him talking it over with Pop Shiori. We may get a chance to talk to him. I don't know if we want to interrupt right now, though, because they are working hard. Green flag is back out here at Dover International Speedway as we are in final practice for race number 11 of the NASCAR Nationwide Series. The Monster Mile so far has not bitten anybody. I know that's probably a kiss of death, but all right, Vince, this was Denny Hamlin just a few moments ago getting out of the car.
Yeah, you can see how tender he is as you'll see him once he gets down on the ground, still favoring that knee, and you can see that he is not anywhere near 100%, doesn't have the strength and the stability. We visited with him on camera and interviewed just a few minutes ago, but prior to that I was talking to him about the knee. He said one of the most frustrating things, and anybody who's had a serious injury can, I think, relate to this. He said it's getting better and it's going in the right direction. He sees the progress, but it is so slow, and it's the patience that is the most difficult for Denny Hamlin right now as he rehabs from that knee surgery, Marty.
Well, and as we pointed out, I mean, he definitely proved he can do it after what he did at Darlington, 13 hours just on Saturday alone with practice, qualifying, and the nationwide race and everything. Here is his post-knee surgery comparisons, and I mean, he's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, he really has, and I think, you know, the great thing for Denny is he's a race car driver and not an athlete in another sport, because it obviously, when you have that type of a surgery, it puts you out for a while, but this is one that he can compete at, and very obvious that he can do it at a high level.
Well, if you remember also one of his race wins here at Dover, he was sick that day, so maybe he should be hurt all the time.
Well, helps him concentrate, obviously, a little bit more.
Let's check in once again on Jamie McMurray. Andy, what's going on?
Yeah, we got Jamie a moment out of the car here while they're working on it. Busy day for you today, Jamie, but this 88 car is not quite where you want it, but man, these guys are working hard.
Yeah, we're changing a lot of stuff. We can't get the chassis off the racetrack, so you have to run these cars so hard. You know, we've talked about this in the past, that in order to drive it any harder, the chassis is just hitting the racetrack. So they're going to Actually, I don't really know what they're doing. I'd like to make it up to you, but we're going to try some different springs and just see if we can limit the travel at the front of the car. It's so much easier over on the Cup side because with the bump stops, they just put some shim in to get the splitter off the ground. But over here, with the way the springs are, you have to find a different travel spring. So Hobbs didn't act very worried, so I'm not going to be very worried. But we have struggled, I feel like, when we unloaded the 88 car with the setups they had from Brad last year. I haven't liked what they've had, but we've been able to kind of come through, and honestly, by the end of the race, I feel like we had one of the better cars on the track. So we'll just have to keep working on this. I'm really excited to have Connects on board this week. They donated $100,000 worth of toys to kids around America, and I'm big into autism, and this is a big weekend for autism with the Cup race. And those toys are really cool for autistic children. So when this all came about, my sister was wearing me out with emails because she was so excited that we were going to get some of these toys. So really thankful to have them on board this week.
Okay, Marty, this team is still early in the weekend for them, and they usually peak when it's time to at the end of the race.
Well, as we mentioned at Richmond, he came back after not qualifying very well, 27th to finish 3rd. And he's got a good crew chief. I mean, Pops, Tony Uriseer has won here twice in the Nationwide Series, once in the Cup Series with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, and when you're trying to eliminate problems and fix things, you want experience on your side, and he certainly has that. And this is a racetrack. You were talking about Jamie's career here in the Nationwide Series, but this is a track he's done well at. The results might not totally show what he's done, but he's usually very competitive. So I think between the two of them, they'll be fast tomorrow.
He has 2 top 5s in 10 starts, 4 top 10s, so 40% of the time he's been in the top 10. There's the 38 now of Casey Kane back out on track, and Kane still in the number 6 position, but I'm looking at his times. Tires have fallen off a little bit. His best lap was on lap 2 at 23.59 seconds. His last lap, 23.63. But we noticed that also when we watched Kyle Busch for 4 laps.
Yeah, but the one thing I have noticed with Casey Kane is his doesn't fall off quite as much. The other guys were falling off about 3/10. Casey's been able to hang right there to where he's about 1.5 to 2/10. And, he was very good in practice at Bristol. Didn't actually show up in the race as much, but I understand this is the same race car. And they were excited to bring it here.
And we still have not seen anyone except one car, the 24 of Eric McClure, take a 10-lap run. Does that surprise you?
It really does surprise me because they are seeing race conditions. You can see how black the racetrack has gotten between the trucks and the Cup Series practice. So they're seeing the track the way that it's going to be for them tomorrow. I thought that we would see more guys get out there and get a little bit more tire wear, see exactly what direction their car may go.
Ryan Newman there in the number 1 for James Finch. He right now on track at 24th. He's only turned a total of 3 laps. You mentioned the black wearing in. There's a great view of it from on board with Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, and Goodyear's worked so hard to make this happen. In years past, before last year, they did a better job too. But you would come here and you could go through up into Saturday and you'd never see this. What you would get would be a dust that would collect up on top of the racetrack. But we're seeing this now. It's a great sight for a race driver to drive down in there and know that you have that rubber down. And we'll continue to see this move up as they run the trucks later this afternoon and then the Nationwide race tomorrow.
Vince, you've got more on Allgaier?
Well, they've just been working a little bit to free it up. That earlier session, he's only run about a dozen laps and has moved up 3 spots from 13th to 10th on the speed chart. Car was bottoming out a little bit, so they came in, checked the clearance, going to give him. They gave him a little bit more clearance and freed it up just a tick. So we'll see if he continues to move up the speed chart. Car getting a little more comfortable for Justin Allgaier.
This will be his 3rd start here at Dover. His best finish was back in this race last year when he finished 10th.
Yeah, what we saw from this group when they won at Bristol was that their car was really good on older tires. And I would have to say that that's something they're probably trying to work towards right now, too.
Well, the top 5 has stayed the same. The positions have changed a little bit. Brad Keselowski has moved into the number 2 spot behind Kyle Busch. Denny Hamlin 3rd, Carl Edwards 4th, and Clint Bowyer rounding out the top 5. There is Trevor Bayne, and you can see that he has made a big jump in the points in the last 4 races.
Yeah, they had a lot of high expectations as the season started, and man, they just couldn't get anything to go their way at the beginning of the year. They were finding themselves getting caught up in accidents, things happening, but kind of rebounded and on a much better run right now.
Well, this is race number 11, so we asked Trevor to give us an evaluation of the season so far.
It's been a roller coaster for sure. We're fast some weekends and we're slow other weekends. We run good and get crashed, then we run bad, and they'll make us run every lap. So it's up and down. But that's how the sport is, and that's why you gotta go into every weekend acting like you won the race before and holding your head up high.
His career best finish was 6th earlier this year at Las Vegas. So as he comes on into pit road, let's go back out on track. There you see the 22 of Brad Keselowski. We mentioned the fact that he has jumped up to the number 2 spot on the speed charts. And in the last 10 races, this is the guy that has been the best. He has scored more points than anyone in the series on concrete.
Well, Brad does a really good job of getting his car to his liking, and that's very important. And he's able to, what we've been able to see is he's a car too that seems to, and a driver that makes his car work on older tires. And he might not be the fastest car on a restart, but if you get him 10 or 15 laps, he usually finds his way to the front. And he's made a lot of these passes late in the race to win the race.
Here's the statistics that we were talking about. 1,692 points. Kyle Busch is second at 105 back. Carl Edwards third. And notice he has 2 wins, 9 top 5s. His average finish in 10 races, 3.5. Vince, you've got more?
Well, I think, too, to back up what DJ was saying about he may not be the fastest guy, but when it comes right down to it, it seems like you always have to beat him. He led only 2 laps, the last 2 laps last year when he won here in the spring. Right now, not completely happy with the car, despite the fact that they're way up on the speed chart. Says he just doesn't feel like he has the necessary grip. Feels like they're missing a little bit of grip everywhere. Dave?
You know, Vince, my spotter, Mike Sabrini, was running down some notes for the Rusty Wallace cars. 66, he had about a half a page done. Stephen Wallace's car, a little bit turning center off troubles, a little bit numb. But when he got to the 62, he went to crew chief Brad Parrott, and he said, can I do, the rest of the page with your car? He said, you're going to need a clean sheet. Brendan not happy with his car right now. They've changed left front spring, camber out of the left front, camber out of the right front, wedge. It was real free. They're trying to get a little bit better than that right now.
Yeah, thanks. Marty, I talked earlier in the show that whenever this is a fun place, whenever your car is good, it is horrible whenever your car is not good as a driver because you're just afraid you're going to wreck. There are so many places that you can, and you know you're going to tear something up, but it can be a real bear if your car is not very good.
35th out of 46 cars that have turned laps here today at the Monster Mile. Kyle Busch is still on top of the speed charts. Come on back. We've still got about 1 more hour of practice left.
As we get set for the green flag, they had better respect the monster today. Denny Hamlin said he had the car to beat.
Great job, dude. First time in the 18 car, 1 ride, 1 win.
What a dominant performance by Hamlin here at the Monster Mile today. Kyle Busch driving the car that Denny Hamlin dominated with back in the spring.
Kyle Busch just too strong for these guys. It's been impressive all day long.
Awesome job, boys. Good job.
An incredible race car and drivers. That guy there was just totally dominating all day.
Kyle Busch on track, still leading the speed charts. 23.43 seconds his fastest lap at 153.6 miles an hour. You already heard earlier from Vince that he's led the most laps in the last 3 races. How about JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing? They've led 72% of over 1,000 laps in the last 5 races at this track.
Well, Joe Gibbs has put together just a phenomenal program over there in this nationwide series, and he's got 2, or most of the time 2 really good drivers. Sometimes they only have 1 car out there, and that's when Kyle leads the majority of the laps. But they have just a really good working order going there with their crew chiefs and their drivers.
Let's transfer it over to the Cup side. Rick Hendrick earlier this week was quoted as saying, they have passed us, the Joe Gibbs Racing operation.
Yeah, I'm not sure he totally believes that in his mind, but they have certainly shown that they're very capable of racing those guys on a weekly basis now. I think Rick might have just been politicking a little bit there, but whatever the case, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and even Joey Logano have shown that Joe Gibbs Racing is right there with the Hendrick Motorsports and their organization.
And there is Denny, the other half of the combination this weekend. And I liked J.D. Gibbs' response to Rick Hendrick's comments. He said, well, we'll check back with us at the end of the year. If we're holding the trophy, then yes, we passed them. Best 5-lap average for Denny, 152.8. So he has definitely got this race car dialed in. One of the guys we have not seen a lot of out on the track, although he has turned a few laps right there, Paul Menard. Dave Burns, what's going on?
Well, a few minutes were spent making some changes to this car that I would normally have expected, so it sort of raised an eyebrow down here. It was the intake manifold came off of the motor. They put another one on and sent Paul back out. And Tim, when you're done telling me why you might try that, I've got a little more to tell you about the result, but let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim, and why would you even play around with removing the intake manifold in the middle of practice?
That's a good question, Dave, because all these engine builders, they have one favorite manifold. Take Robert Yates and Richard Childress and those guys. You even see Jack Roush walking around the garage area carrying one. But what they're trying to do, Dave, they change the inside of the manifold, the configuration down in here. We measure the volume in here in cc's, but anytime you hog it out more, you make it bigger, you make the power on the top end of the RPM span. But if you want the car to accelerate off the corner, you make the manifold smaller in this area right here, and that makes the car accelerate, literally moving the power or the torque band to the bottom. So, Dave?
So, Tim, that last bit you showed us is how the first one acted. He had power off the corner. The one they put on there, not so much. He said, let's change it back. I really like the balance of this race car, but that wasn't it on the manifold. Marty?
You're just sitting over there grinning, you Cheshire Cat. What are you thinking?
Well, every time I hear this, it takes me back to my days of driving and driving for Doug and Robert Yates, and this is a Ford engine. But they were big in changing manifolds, and we were doing it one time at Charlotte, and they were covering practice, and one of the announcers said, those guys might need to be working on the chassis instead of messing around with an intake manifold. We went out and won the race the next day, and so that particular person came and said, I guess y'all were right. We had the chassis good, but it was something that Doug and Robert believed in. So, you know, this is another example of that. It can make a difference, and as a driver, you want to make sure that you have the very best feel.
As we come back out trackside, Brian Scott leading the Rookie of the Year points. You saw there where he won in 09 in the Camping World Truck Series. Right now, he is 14th on the speed chart, but think about this. He's leading James Buescher by 6 points in the Rookie of the Year contest, but Buescher is now out of the #1 ride for the remainder of the year. So now the next closest competition is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Ricky's had a lot of problems, so Brian may be in the catbird seat when it comes to Rookie of the Year honors.
Yeah, but I think he had things going his way anyway. He's been very impressive this year. I'd really like watching him hustle this race car around, and his team seems to be getting even better and better with each week. But I think this young man has a lot of talent.
12th in the points right now. He lost 2 spots back at Darlington last week, making his first Nationwide Series start here at Dover. Kevin Harvick and both of us here are surprised that he's only 12th on the speed charts. Dave, what are they saying down there? Or Vince, I'm sorry.
Well, Marty, one of the issues that Kevin Harvick and crew chief Ernie Cope have been dealing with is just getting the car to work well, getting into the turn, and they don't feel like they've got the speed, and maybe only about half the track conquered. Listen to Harvick's radio.
Good through 1 and 2, good into 3, back to the gas. And then I'm all the way back to the gas, and it just slips. Okay, 10-4. Change front shocks, guys. Through 1 and 2, I'm buried in a problem. It's starting to piss me off that it's running that slow.
Well, there you hear the conversation between Kevin Harvick and his crew chief, Ernie Cope. But tell you what, on the concrete tracks, this man is so good. Harvick has won 7 times on the concrete, more than anyone else in the Nationwide Series. And how about the year he's having, huh? 3rd in points here and leading the Cup, Sprint Cup points. Things have turned around for Kevin Harvick.
Well, and in 2 weeks, he has to make a decision, because he said he'll make his decision whether or not to run the entire Nationwide campaign at Charlotte.
Yeah, and we can only hope that he makes a decision that'll be good for the Nationwide Series, and that's that he'll challenge these guys for the championship. And what Kevin's talking about, one thing I'll tell you about this racetrack, he talks about he can't get his car into the corner. If you try to work with that as a driver, but if you literally can't be driving this car down to where it takes the set at the spot of the racetrack that you need it to, then that upsets the balance of the car. When you need to be getting back to the throttle, or if you're having to get back to it too soon, then that really changes the racetrack. So you have to really work and get that problem fixed before you can get the rest of the corner figured out.
Well, the 88 of Jimmy McMurray making a step in the right direction. He is now up to the 17th spot. Turned to fastest lap now of 23.87 seconds. Oh no, we've got our first bent-up race car here at the Monster Mile as contact into the wall for that Chevrolet. And ouch, the pain is palpable. Donnie Neuenberger. Not a severe amount of damage, but enough that he's not going to make it back to pit road.
Yeah, most of the time you hit here, it's you're going to get quite a bit of damage. What we can't see on the right front. See if we can see what happened. Yeah, it just got up out of the groove. Now, I don't know if that's a tire. We'll have to see. It happened right in the center of the corner, but a lot of times that's where your car will get loose as you're driving it down in there and correcting. You get up into the wall.
There's Carl's view from on board. Well, we'll check on Donnie and see if it was a tire situation. Once they get him back into the garage area, it'll give us a chance to step aside. Kyle Busch still on top of the speed charts.
Dover's called the Monster Mile because there's a big monster out front.
It's a monster. I mean, it's crazy. It's just like Bristol, except it's a mile.
It's in your face, and it just tears up cars. When there's a one-car wreck, it quickly turns into a 5, 10, 15-car wreck.
It's like riding a roller coaster. You know, you drive off down in the corner, a lot of throttle, jump off into the corner, and you hit the banking, and it catches you, and you go on and do it again.
It's a fast joint. They say it's like 2 stories or something when you drop off into the corners.
It's a really, really enjoyable race.
And the Monster has claimed its first victim here in the Nationwide Series practice as Donnie Neuenberger, who will start 30th in the Camping World Truck Race tonight, hit the wall at not a severe angle, but enough to do some damage to the number 31. He is the 46th and last fastest car on the track at 25.3 seconds. So they've got a lot more work to do. While we've got a chance, let's catch up with Casey Kane.
Yeah, and Marty, he was already out of the race car after 17 laps on Dover's mile. Were they 17 good laps, or did you require some major changes here?
Yeah, we're making some more pretty big changes. We've feel decent, but not good enough. The car's moving around too much, so hopefully we get it a little closer this time with our Great Clips Camry and see those. There's a few cars here that are always really tough to beat, and we need to be better in order to beat those guys. So hopefully we can hit on something here at the end of practice.
I know this place can get away from you real quick. Where was it moving around the most? Entry or in the middle or off the corner?
Yeah, getting into turn 1, it just, you know, you kind of drop into the corner and the car was kind of floating and then dropping, and you just can't have that here. You got to follow the racetrack a little better. So hopefully this will help. And then just having forward drive and being able to turn the center, a couple of things we've been fighting too.
So guys, Casey's car was worst where most of us would ever fear to tread going into turn 1.
All right, thanks, Dave. Don't forget tonight, catch a 1-hour NBA Entertainment ESPN Films documentary. It chronicles the regular season exploits of the Los Angeles Lakers as they look to defend their NBA title. It's called The Association, LA Lakers, on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern. Green flag is flying once again here at the Monster Mile as we have just under 45 minutes of final practice remaining. Checking in on the 60 of Carl Edwards, who finds himself now being bumped down to the number 4 spot on the speed chart. Carl, of
Carl's
course,
been out there. He really hasn't put a lot of time out there. Once again, you only see he's been on the track for this be his 16th lap on the racetrack. Carl looks good.
Tomorrow he will be making his 171st consecutive start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series.
Seems we're able to ride along inside of his car here. See how much work he's having to do. He put a little bit more wheel than some other racetracks that we see because of the tightness of the corner here. You can see being able to hold it pretty still and then feed the steering wheel back. That's exactly what you want from your race car as a driver.
Well, one of the things that you don't want, we heard earlier when Jamie McMurray and everybody was talking about the car hitting the track too much. And Andy, let's talk a little bit about the shocks and the springs and what you do.
Yeah, Marty, they are still struggling with this 88 car hitting the ground. And you'd think that they can fix that real easy. And in the Cup Series, they can. They've got bump stops. They can just insert shims and just fix that real quick. But in this series, they don't allow bump stops. So they have to use the spring to limit the travel. And you really can't use both front springs at the same time. You have to use one or the other. And that's what they've been playing with here. They're swapping it back and forth from the left front to the right front. But if we go down to Tim Brewer, Tim, you might be able to show us just a little bit more of how they use this spring to limit travel.
Yeah, we can do that, Andy, but this is what we were talking about a while ago. The Cup guys actually use this particular situation here where they can exchange these shims, and that might not look much like, you know, it has a lot of control over the race car, but that controls the ride height to the car. But as far as the spring's concerned, this is an installed spring, the height of it. But when you see the cars go through the corner, they're literally coil bound, just like this. Matter of fact, I got that off of Andy. But what's really critical is where the spring starts. You see this area over here? It's called a 180-degree bucket. The spring normally starts out here. But a lot of guys have inserts that they can put in here and rotate that. And what they're trying to do is make this spring set down in this bucket to where it completely compresses and don't have any voids in it from the standpoint of bottoming out and being real abrupt. Because when the car bottoms out, it lifts the wheel off the ground. You don't have any traction whatsoever.
Yeah, Tim, and you know, that's just very difficult for these guys to get that exactly right. They have to go in there and shim those things, just like you say, those buckets and all. They don't have that little shim they can put in for the bump stops. So,
you need to sell them. You need to sell them one of the pull-down rigs so they can simulate all this stuff at the shop before they come to the racetrack. That's the only way they're going to perfect it.
They do have one. I asked Pops, I said, are you not using enough load on your pull-down rig? He says, well, the problem is they were trying to use it on one side or the other. They were swapping back and forth, left front to right front, and now they've got the right corner to work on. Now they got to get it refined.
But I tell you what, that is a good product you have there with that pull-down rig. You learn an awful lot on it before you can come to the racetrack.
All right, thanks, guys. Great discussion as you can see some of the adjustability that these cars and crew chiefs have to go through as we see Jamie McMurray pulling back out on the track.
Yeah, and one thing they have to keep in mind, too, is that the air pressure is built up in these tires, and if it's doing it there, as they get into race conditions tomorrow and lower those air pressures, that situation only gets worse then.
So as Jamie pulls out, we can tell you that right now he is still 17th on the speed chart. Still looking for the right combination. Everybody is chasing Kyle Busch. He has had one fast race car the entire practice session. Brad Keselowski is second, Denny Hamlin third. Carl Edwards and Clint Boyer round out the top five, and Casey Kane is sixth.
Right along here with Jamie McMurray as he goes back out and tries this. His fastest lap is 23.87. See if he can improve on that. We've seen a lot of cars and drivers be able to go back out when their cars were good, but each time you're not positive that they fixed the problem, so you don't know exactly how much you can push it. You drive it down in there, but you don't want to be overly aggressive either. Might take you a lap or two to get it up to speed and see exactly what you have.
23.95. That is close to his best lap of 23.87.
He's not really having to work the wheel a lot, but it's a matter of how much throttle you're putting down.
Well, let's see as he goes past the stripe this time. Is it any better? 23.99. It's consistent, but it's not consistent enough at the fast end.
3.99.
Well, as Jamie and the team continue to work on it, we'll show you the top 10 in speeds as we head to commercial break here at the Monster Mile in final practice for race number 11 on the NASCAR Nationwide Series.
Back at the Monster Mile as the Nationwide Series is in the midst of its final practice. In fact, it's only practice before qualifying tomorrow and then the race on Saturday. And there's the car of Jason Keller. The big story this weekend, as we told you off the top of the show, Keller trying to make the field. He needs to qualify on time, but it would be his 500th career Nationwide Series start. Right now, 25th on the speed chart. The team is preparing this car for a mock run. And again, mock qualifying run. Again, remember, they've got to qualify on time tomorrow. So very important practice session for this 35 of Jason Keller. You know, it's interesting. Keller preparing for his 500th start. And then the team pitted and garaged right next to the 35 is the 6 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And there you see Stenhouse on the track. It's just his 18th Nationwide Series start. So you've got one guy making his 500th career start. Right next to him in the garage is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. trying to make his 18th career start. His first time here this weekend. And the team's pretty happy with what he's done so far. He is 15th on the chart. His fastest lap was lap 28. It's a sign that he's starting to catch up to things. And boy, does this team need a good run this weekend, Marty.
Yeah, he is. He's 33rd in owner points, 75 out of the top 30. They finished 9th at Phoenix, which was his best finish of the season, but 37th at Darlington and his 4th DNF due to a crash, and that's been the biggest problem with both of the young Roush drivers.
Yeah, they have struggled in getting their cars to handle properly in the way that they want to, and yeah, that's a challenge that these young guys face coming into the series this day and time.
What a comparison, though. 500 starts to 18.
That is quite a comparison. And, you know, one thing that makes it difficult for these young guys is the no testing policy. I mean, there are places they can go and run some laps, but it really makes it a much steeper learning curve for them when they can't get on the tires, take the cars they're going to race, and go to racetracks and get some laps under their belt. So, you know, each week is more like a test session for them. So hopefully the owners will be a little more patient and understanding of that.
Where do you go to test on a monster mile? I mean, where do you get a similar track?
Yeah, you can't do that. I mean, there is nothing. You know, we talk about how unique it is, and we say that for a reason, because it is. So you can't do that. And so that's what they're out here trying to get as many laps in here in this 2-hour session as they possibly can today, and try as many things as they possibly can.
Well, I remember talking to Ricky before Darlington, and then I said, what's the one thing you got to do? And he says, I've got to stay out of the crashes. He's been involved in 8 crashes in 10 races total this season. And if they can keep the car in one piece, he feels like, you know, we can do a good job for him.
Yeah, you know, you're telling me, you know, you need laps, you need time. That's what you need, but then you don't want him backing off just so he can get laps on the racetrack. You know, you want him driving hard. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation.
Well, and not all those are his fault. You get swept up in somebody else's deal, and there's nothing you can do. Landon Castle, another one of the young drivers. We mentioned this will be his 4th start here. He's 20th on the speed charts right now. Staying on the young driver kick, let's check in on Trevor Bayne. Dave?
Yeah, he's hopped out of his car for right now, Marty. They want to make some major changes to it. But I know you just took a mock qualifying run as well, Trevor. How's the car overall?
It's not bad. We started out to the free side today. The bumps were really upsetting it into both corners, but this is our first time here in a Nationwide car, so any first run is going to be a little bit washy, you know, when you get out there going over those bumps in the corner. So we got it stabilized on entry now. Now we're just working on the center through the exit just to make it turn up off. You know, they tend to get tied up toward the wall here, so we want to make sure we can keep it turning all the way through the corner. Pretty happy with it so far, though. I feel like we got a decent race car, a good starting point.
And I understand that for the 99 car, tomorrow completing every lap is important?
It is, man. We've got Hershey's Milk and Milkshakes giving us $99. Actually, they're giving it to Autism Speaks for every lap that we complete, which is up to $19,800. So that's a pretty big donation. Hopefully we can make all the laps for them and for us.
Yep, it'd be good for both of them, Marty.
And he has gone up to the number 5 spot on the speed charts with that mock qualifying run. And as we look at the top 13 on the speed charts, he is the only one that does not have a Nationwide Series win. And what's significant about that? Well, Dover has 13 first-time winners. That's the most of all Nationwide Series tracks that we run.
And it's crazy that you'd think that as we talk about how tough this racetrack is, how do we have all of these first-time winners coming here and succeeding? But he could be someone tomorrow that could add to that. He's less than less than a tenth of a second off the fast lap here, and we've seen him be able to go at these racetracks, and even though he doesn't have a lot of experience at them or see them for the first time, and do very well.
Colin Brown, another guy who really needs to get things turned around. Remember, he was out of the seat for 2 races, now back behind the wheel of the 16. He's had crashes in 5 of his last 8 Nationwide Series starts. And again, this car also has to qualify on speed. Kyle Busch is still the leader in the clubhouse. He's also the leader out in the track. He is the fastest right now as practice with 30 minutes to go here at Dover. Let's check the calendar right now, and we'll have qualifying in the Nationwide Series 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning on ESPN2, and then the race at 2 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Southern Nationals qualifying 8 Eastern tomorrow on ESPN2, and then the finals at 7 o'clock Eastern Sunday, also on ESPN2. And then NASCAR now, the Sunday morning edition, 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Back here at the Monster Mile, we are inside of 30 minutes remaining on this one and only practice session. Kyle Busch still the top of the leader chart. Casey Kane right now in the number 7 position, as they are still looking for a few answers. We talked to him a few moments ago.
I was watching to see if it looked like they might have made some improvements with this car, and I believe maybe they did. I saw him take it a little bit easy when he first went back out, but lap time seemed to be pretty good for him. I think this is a racetrack that we'll see that the groove will move up. The trucks race here this afternoon. We'll see that second groove right there where Casey is get a little darker there, where these guys can utilize that part of the track. And people like Casey Kane that like to get in that middle and top groove try to make that work.
Get our first peek today at Scott Lagasse in the 43, of course, Bigger Curb Racing, based out of Nashville. And you can see they're carrying the American Red Cross colors. Dave, you've got more on this, don't you?
Well, and as you can see on the car, there's still a couple things folks can do to help the ongoing effort there. Text Red Cross to 90999, and you can go to the website, NashvilleRedCross.org. But one of the stories here at the track this weekend is Ronnie Griffin. He actually was staying in the house that head fabricator Brett Jones owns, and Brett's house was flooded up to the second floor. Guess where Ronnie's room was? In the basement. It was the first to go. So they've been making changes in his life since then, and still had to come to the racetrack as they try to get Scott's car better for the race. But Ronnie, one of the many displaced there. But folks from Nashville telling me they're really banding together around there, doing a great job of getting folks back on their feet. And of course, every dollar can help. And sometimes even coming to the racetrack and having a decent race car can help the feelings as well. And Scott Lagasse told me right before he went out, my car's not bad. And that'd be a big boost for the folks up there as well.
Yeah, I have a friend who lives in the Nashville area, and he was describing for me what was going on, and it really was. It was just amazing how fast the water rose and how much damage it really did. And we send our best to everybody over in Nashville. Of course, in a few weeks, we will be in Nashville with the Nationwide Series at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Yeah, we'll be back over there for racing, and certainly that's not what's on their minds over there now. As you said, Marty, we wish all of those folks in that area the very best.
Lagasse 18th on the speed charts right now at 23.89 seconds. And right in front of him there is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Stenhouse 15th on the speed chart. You can already see some different lines. I mean, look how high Stenhouse is running compared to some of the other guys.
Yeah, we see these guys starting to use up a little more of the racetrack, and probably as they get into more of a race mode type situation and get their cars more comfortable to them, they're able to let the cars roll, and sometimes you can carry a little bit more speed going that direction and then cutting it back across the center or the exit of the corner.
That last lap was only 2 100ths off of his best lap, so Stenhouse may have found something also that is working better for his car. Check in once again on Jamie McMurray. He is still 17th, Andy.
Yeah, Marty, they're still looking for something there, too. Hopefully they can find. They changed the left rear spring that last time. Quick change to go back out there. They say, Jamie's saying that their car is a lot better than it was. In other words, they were just basically junk before. Now they've got something to work with. They've changed the rear spring, the right rear spring the last time. Now this time the left rear spring. And their lap times are fairly competitive for the laps they have on the tires and where they are. But they need probably another tenth and a half. But that'll be the hardest ones to find.
Well, as we mentioned, his best concrete finish is 3rd here in June of 2005. He was driving for our own Rusty Wallace, and Rusty was at the shuttle launch, and we checked, and it did go off on schedule just about 10 minutes ago. So he was at the Cape with his oldest son, Greg.
Hey, Andy, I know these guys have made a lot of changes, and they're only have a certain amount of tires to work with. Is this tire good enough that they can really get all the information in making these changes that they really need?
Yeah, Dale, it looks like it is. I mean, the fastest lap that Jamie put up was on lap 17 on his tires. So, yeah, I think it is good enough for that. It looks like we're going to have a good tire for the race on Saturday as well. But, yeah, I think it is. Goodyear's done a good job with this new left side, and, they got a little history with this right side. So, yeah, you can see the lap times right there. The tire holds up pretty well.
Well, that's good to know. I know that's always one thing you worry about, the heat cycles, and are you really getting the type of information and feedback as a driver that you really need? Is the tire good enough? And when Goodyear brings a tire like this that you can do that, it's really comforting to know as a driver that you're getting the correct information, and that when you put all of these changes into place for tomorrow, you're not going to have anything close to what you thought you had.
Jamie pulls it back into the garage area. He had mentioned earlier, if you were with us, about the KNX, the $100,000 donation
Hey,
that
put the right
the
rear
company's
spring
making
back,
with
unhook
toys.
the bar. Swap them 2 front shocks back. Let's see if that helps his entry.
Yeah, what they'll try to do with the shocks here in particular, you've heard us talk about how the racetrack literally falls out from underneath you on the entrance to the corners. You're trying to keep the car and the tire connected as much as possible. So whenever that you do go off in there, that the tire's not falling and the body's still up in there. You want to keep those two. So maybe they'll change the rebound to get maybe the left front staying down a little bit more than what they had the right front at that time, or maybe it's vice versa. But that's what you're trying to do with the front shocks at a place like Dover.
On board with Mike Wallace right now, 33rd on the speed charts. And a few races ago, Mike was looking pretty good. Considering they had not been able to crack the top 10. He was 9th in the points, but he has since slipped back a little bit as he got his first of his 4 Nationwide Series wins here at this track back in 1994.
This shows that Mike's been around a long time, been in this series and the Truck Series and the Cup Series, racing a lot through the years. Very talented race driver.
And we mentioned he was in the top 10 in points a few weeks ago. He has dropped to 18th in the Nationwide Series points as of right now. So the time continues to tick off. About 20 minutes remaining, and there is the man who is still the fastest, Kyle Busch, with Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin right behind.
Danica Patrick going side by side with Weldon. She'll be the leader in turn number 1.
My goodness.
For a moment, all is right with the world. Danica Patrick leading the Indianapolis 500.
Their story will certainly be told from days to come.
Expect more drama and excitement when the Indianapolis 500 returns on ABC Sunday, May 30th.
And of course, last year, Danica coming off her career best finish at the Indianapolis 500, 3rd. And she has always driven well at that racetrack. Does she become the first woman to ever win it? We'll find out on Sunday, May 30th. And it's 44 days until Danica returns to Loudon in the Nationwide Series in the number 7 car that Landon Castle's in today. So we'll also be waiting for that as well on this side of the motorsports calendar. There's Brad Keselowski with the best 5-lap average. You saw it there on the screen. He's looking pretty doggone good. Number 2 on the speed charts, and he's been there all session long.
Yeah, they put up a lot of laps out there. They have a fast race car. It looks like it stays with him really well. So obviously he could add to that tremendous record that he already has on concrete surfaces tomorrow.
Of course, his best finish here last year when he came home in 1st. He has a total of 5 top 10s here at Dover. 3 of those in the top 5 in 6 races. So he likes this place.
Yeah, as we're watching him, there is a new guy atop the practice sheet here. Clint Boyer's taking the number 21 Chevrolet, the 2337.
And would have to check, but we're into that window where it would be mock qualifying runs, and I have a feeling that that's probably it.
Absolutely. And so you have people like, we don't think, well, we know that when Kyle Busch was out and set what is now the 2nd fastest time, that he ran an extended number of laps during that. So you don't know exactly how fast he may be able to go out there if indeed they choose to do that or if they wait.
Well, the 21 is still out on the track. In fact, he actually did a 15-lap run, and he has done extremely well on that at 150.6 average. And that is pretty impressive as well. And we are, yes, he has now taken it into the garage area. So let me correct that. We thought he was out, but he was actually in the process of coming in. On the other end of the scale, Mr. Newman, Ryan's mired in 24th on the speed charts. Not probably going to be one of his happier moments.
No, but I think that he's probably just trying to get used to the race car and working with these guys. And I don't know that he's going to be totally disappointed with what he's seen today, and I don't know that we'll see these guys make a mock qualifying effort. I think they're more concerned in getting Ryan comfortable with the car for the race.
His win here in 05 was the 4th in a 5-start win streak. He started on the pole. He led 193 of the 200 laps that day.
Yeah, that was an incredible streak that he put together, winning those races.
And it looks like Justin Allgaier is all taped up. Dave Burns, give us an update, please.
Well, almost, Marty, and that's my mistake. They're going to do that on the next run. They talked about doing it when he came into the garage. This time, they did not. He's gone back out on old tires for one more change. That's because on the run before this, it was still snappy loose in the middle, something that Justin didn't want to try with fresh sticker tires and taped up in a mock qualifying situation. So they're going to see if they can work some of that out. It's taken about 35 laps on the track so far today. Not too bad for Justin overall. We haven't talked about him much. Maybe a threat along with his teammate here tomorrow.
The number 12 is 12th. What do you think?
Yeah, that snappy loose is not a good thing here. Again, as fast as this racetrack is and right down in the center, that's where you want to be starting to power back up. You can see the car wiggle just a little bit, but that's on the exit of the corner.
24.15 seconds. The last lap was 24.18.
And when you have that type of a situation, the last thing you need to be doing is putting on a set of tires and blocking the front end off if you're already loose down in the center of the corner, because you'll find yourself in big trouble.
While we've got a moment, let's talk about how you can catch a one-hour NBA Entertainment ESPN Films documentary tonight. It chronicles the regular season exploits of the Los Angeles Lakers as they look to defend their NBA title. The Association, the LA Lakers on ESPN tonight at 9 Eastern.
Lakers having another good year, trying to go back-to-back with those championships.
Unfortunately, Cleveland can't say the same.
No, they can't. No, but Lakers going to have their hands full with the Phoenix Suns. So it'll be interesting as they get started Monday.
Well, Clint Boyer is right now on top of the speed charts, and Dave Burns has caught up with him.
Well, let's find out from Clint. We understand that was a mock qualifying run. How's it been in race trim, and would that put it on the pole, do you think, tomorrow?
No, I don't think it'll hold up for the pole, but Zaxby Chevrolet is really good. Race trim. We were really good here last year when we won a race. Car feels good. It's very consistent lap after lap, everything you need it to do. It just won't run a fast qualifying lap. Both times I've won here, qualified way in the back, drove up through them, had a good car all day long. So I'm excited. It's the best Zaxby Chevrolet we've had since I've been in it, and hopefully we'll go get them.
You'd take winning the race over winning qualifying?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Guys.
All right, thanks, Dave. All right, I was wrong the last time I looked and thought that the grill was taped up on Allgaier, and I'm looking to see if it's taped up on the 18 of Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I'd have to say with that lap, 23.58 on that first lap, that maybe you can see it back in, kick out a little bit off of turn 2 right there. Looks like he may be a little bit on the loose side. I don't think he could keep the car down in the center of the corner, so that tells me maybe it's not pushing there, but he just couldn't turn the steering wheel. Vince, what are you saying, hearing from the 18?
Well, and DJ, they had just come in and made after scuffing a couple of sets of tires, made a right rear shock change. So that may be what Kyle is feeling and you're seeing out there in the way that car's handling.
The last lap was 23.72 seconds, and here he comes past the stripe again. We'll give you an idea if it's quicker or it's leaving slower, 23.98. So as we saw before, he has his best lap on the first lap, and then each one progressively slips. So the question will be just how much fall off will he have during the race? He has not taken either a 10 or a 15 lap run, so we really can't give you an idea how it's going to be on the long run. NASCAR Nationwide Series Final Practice brought to you by Quiznos. Buy an entree and get a kid's meal free all day, every day at Quiznos. We are down to about 6 minutes remaining in this final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series event here at the Monster Mile. Jamie McMurray has been our in-race reporter and will be tomorrow, and we've been sort of checking on his progress, and he's actually been bumped down 2 more spots to 19th as they are still trying to find the right combination for that race car. While we continue to watch the 88, of course, if you were with us from the beginning, you know that Jason Keller trying to qualify for his 500th career start. No one's even come close to that number. David or Vince?
April 27, 1991. Sounds like a long time ago. That was when you made your first start in this series, and now you're trying to make it for the 500th time tomorrow. The difference in emotions, how about that? Will you describe the difference between that first race in 91 and what you feel today?
Well, there was pressure for both of them, you know. We just, we have to make it on speed. The car showed some pretty good speed in practice, but I can tell you this, there'll be one more night of sleepless night. So we'll just have to do what we can tomorrow. I think the car's got enough speed, but I have been in this business long enough to know nothing's ever a guarantee. So very proud that I've made 499 and hope tomorrow be 500.
What does that mean to you as a driver?
Well, I really, the competitor in me, I just don't want to start tomorrow. I want to run good. I mean, this is the plates. I know I can run good. And I want it to be a quality start. I mean, I don't want it just to be a number. And I don't want this 500 to be just the end of something that's been great. I want it to be the start of something that it can keep going, and that's my career. So every start is important, but this one's got a little bit extra pressure.
So many people have had a hand in those 499 starts up to this point, Marty, and well, a lot of people are going to be pulling for the 35 tomorrow.
I think that's a safe bet, and it will be a great moment. In fact, a lot of the former crew members I hear are coming back, and they're going to have a big team photo, and that's the pressure he's feeling as well, because he knows that's going to be happening as well, and they've got to get in on time. Speaking of time, Justin Allgaier is taped up, we can tell you, because we actually saw them doing it during the break. And 23.79, and he's still 13th.
Yeah, that's just over a tenth off of his fastest lap. See if he's able to pick up on the second lap here. Sometimes they have the air pressures down, and they will run a little bit quicker on that second lap. You're talking about those crew members coming back for Jason Keller, and they'll come back because Jason Keller has been a quality person, great race driver, but he's been a really good person to a lot of people, and he treats people the right way, and that's why you'll see that group come back to help celebrate what will be a great day for Jason Keller.
He won here in June of 2000 in his 203rd start, and we can tell you Allgaier did not improve on the second lap, 23.78 seconds. It still wasn't even as good as his quick lap earlier.
Yeah, but one thing.
We mentioned 2000 and the June race where Jason won. Let's take you back and show you the video. That was the team, and he looked a little younger then, but didn't we all?
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Tomorrow could be a big day, as it should be. Kevin Harvick, another guy that we're wondering about. He is 17th on the speed charts. He's run 45 laps. His quickest was lap number 2.
Yeah, three fast guys you see right here, though. See Denny Hamlin there, Harvick in the middle, and Trevor Bayne right behind him. So these guys kind of measuring up each other, see how things are. Denny wasn't going to give him much of a chance to see exactly what he may have had.
Well, practice ends right at the top of the hour when we have to sign off. So we'll be bidding you a quick adieu when the time is upon us. As you can see right now, I'm checking, Harvick still 17th. Our fastest is Clint Boyer. Kyle Busch is second quick. Then Greg Biffle, he taped up and just turned a couple of good laps. Brad Keselowski is fourth. Denny Hamlin is fifth. Carl Edwards sixth. And Trevor Bayne, there you see in the back of the screen, he is now seventh.
I'm sure Trevor's feeling pretty good right now. He seems to be able to hang on right there with Kevin Harvick, and anytime you can do that, you know that you have a pretty good race car.
Well, and that's a great person to learn from, as you point out. I mean, a lot of experience there. No more wins on concrete than what he has in that 33. Brad Keselowski, we've already talked about how good he has been in the last 10 races on concrete. Just a phenomenal 3.5 average finish in those 10 races, including 3 wins. If you've got to pick, knowing what you've seen so far, who do you like going into this race tomorrow?
Be hard not to like Kyle Busch. I mean, maybe that's kind of an obvious pick, but I think he will be hard to beat. But Denny Hamlin but Clint Boyer seems to be really happy with his race car.
All right, tomorrow the Nationwide Series will set the field with qualifying at 10 Eastern on ESPN2, and then we go. The race kicks off 2 Eastern on ABC with NASCAR Nationwide Countdown, presented by Helmet. Coming up next, it's the Scott Van Pelt Show. And this has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For DJ, Andy Petrie, Vince Welch, Dave Burns, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marty Reed. Till we meet again.